Hello, everyone, and welcome to the real estate market analysis for Gilroy for August of 2022. We're going to take a look at all of the most important statistics relating to real estate in Gilroy, and we'll also take an interesting look at how many homes are currently experiencing price reductions. Now, if you would like to see Gilroy compared to other local communities like San Jose, Morgan Hill, and then Santa Clara County in general, I'm going to suggest you check out the coffee and real estate live chat video from September from this month of 2022. You can find that on YouTube. I'll put a link below for you to find that more easily. And in that, we not only cover the entire county and focus in on a few communities like Gilroy, but we also answer questions from folks, discuss topics of interest, and also the latest news and information relating to real estate. And those happen on the third Saturday of every month, so make sure to check it out next month, and we'll cover the exact same information, but also whatever the newest information is for our local marketplace. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at what's going on in Morgan Hill. What we've got is the total number of active listings, and we're looking at it from two perspectives here. First, we're comparing it to the same time last year. So the to the right there, you can see that we've got August of 2022 and August of 2021 right next to each other. That way it's very easily to visually identify it. The last year's column is in red so that you can differentiate it. But then it also gives you an opportunity to look back at the trend over the last year or so to get a feeling for where we're going. And you can see that we've had a uptick in the overall listings, overall active listings for Gilroy. This month in August, we had 73 active listings. The same time last year, we had 57. So that's a 44.8% increase from the same time last year. And in terms of the overall trend, it's really gone along with what we tend to see seasonally, but also higher. So if you compare this time last year to the same time last year, and also take a look at July and August, obviously, but when we see the increases in March, April, May, June, July, these are all expected. These are normal seasonal increases that we see in inventory that happen all the time. But this year, we're seeing these numbers escalate. We're starting to see inventory numbers going up. Now, as we head into winter, particularly when we get into November, we're likely going to see the total number of active listings flatten out a bit. I'm not sure they'll go down too much. Some folks may take their homes off the market, but for those folks who do stay on the market, those are going to be some interesting properties to consider if you're a buyer, simply because the seriousness of the seller is going to be very well defined by the fact that they've decided to stay on the market when most folks take their homes off of the market because they don't want to be showing their home during the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. All right, let's go ahead and check out the next bit here. Let's look at new listings. Now, these are folks who've actually listed their home in Gilroy in the month of August, and we can see that it's down by about 13.6%. Last year, we had 59 homes listed in the month of August in Gilroy. This year, 2022 August, we had 51. So not a huge drop, but we are tending to see new listings stagnating a bit. We saw a nice peak in May of 95, and it's been dropping off a bit. But we aren't really selling off. Now, keep that number in mind. We added 51 homes to the marketplace in Gilroy in August of 2022. Now let's go ahead and take a look at homes sold. We can see we sold in August of 2022 far fewer homes than we listed. So that's a dynamic you're going to want to keep in mind. That means that for that month, we net added, 12, 13, 14 homes to the marketplace in Morgan Hill, which means greater inventory, which means buyers have more homes to choose from and sellers have more homes to compete with in terms of the overall market there. It's down 32.1% from the same time last year. So in August of 2021, we had 56 homes sold in Gilroy. Home sales have been dropping pretty consistently since April, and we've sort of flattened out in July and August. I think it's very interesting to note that during a period of time, the summer, when we would expect more sales to happen, we've actually seen a decline. We saw that really big jump in April. And normally when we see, and remember when we see a homes sold number, it's really reflecting homes that sold about 30 days earlier. And the reason for that is because a home doesn't officially sell until it closes escrow. And as most of you probably know, it takes 30 to 40 days for a home to close escrow. So when we're saying we sold 38 homes in August of 2022, those are homes where the offer was likely made in the month of July. So that's actually a read on the amount of actual buying activity that took place in July when we look at those August numbers. And for me, the fact that we see such low numbers in July and August is not normal for the season. At the end of summer, that's when we should be seeing things peaking. Now, it would be normal, I think, to see a drop off a bit, and as is true with other communities, to see a bit of a drop off between July and August. But to see relatively no drop off between July and August, right, about the same number, I would have expected July to be higher. It would have made more sense to me to see sales around 40, 50, right in that ballpark, and then to see that drop in August of this year, but we didn't see that. It indicates that the market in Gilroy may be cooling quicker than in other areas. All right, average list price is actually up 2.7%. If comparing this to some other areas where prices have actually gone down, that is still performing fairly well. We saw homes in August of 2022 selling for $1.189 million on average. Last year, at the same time, it was $1.157 million. And the trend, honestly, is relatively flat. We've seen some variation, but really, aside from May, the number that we're seeing in terms of sales list price has remained relatively steady. Now, one thing I want to point out about this particular graph, this is average list price, but this is the price that was listed by sellers when they first listed the home, meaning it wasn't the price when the home sold. So if the price was increased or decreased as the home was being marketed, that is not this number. This is the number that was first agreed upon, the original, when it was first entered into the MLS. And the reason why I like to use that number is that for buyers and sellers out there, it helps us to understand what were the expectations of sellers when they entered into this market, right? And what's interesting about Gilroy is, unlike other communities, sellers did not expect gigantic gains from the same time last year, only to the tune of 2.7% when comparing it to the same time last year. Whereas there were some other communities that had double-digit expectations that really can't be handled by the current market. So Gilroy, in terms of expectations on the part of sellers, seems a little bit more calibrated to what the market's actually doing right now. If we look at average sales price is up 18.9% at $1,264,509. 1 year ago, in August of 2021, that number was $1,063,205. So while expectations aren't out of whack, the actual performance of the market is actually very good. Now, I looked into this a little bit more deeply. That's a real number. So they're simply seeing homes at a higher price level getting sold in Gilroy. That's a bit of a jump, but statistically, I think what we'll see is relatively flat performance moving forward, because you can see there was a relatively mild decline, right? From March of 2022 till July of 2022, we really saw a subtle dip in what the average sales price was. Now, the average sales price is also not just a reflection of activity at different levels, and I think that's what this represents. It represents buying activity that was happening at a higher price point, where the activity at that higher price point is really what offset it from previous months. Not so much that the actual overall prices have changed, but really just where buyers were buying more was at this higher price point versus July, if that makes sense. All in all, though, I think this is a relatively good sign for buyers. I think that sellers are more calibrated to reality than in many other areas. And as we'll see here in a moment, I think that Gilroy potentially represents a good opportunity for buyers right now in terms of being able to get better prices and having sellers being already prepared for that. Let's go ahead and take a look at percent of list price. This basically refers to if you have the list price at the time the home sold. So this is not the original list price. Whatever the home was priced at when the buyer made their offer, whatever that list price was in the MLS, that's what this represents. So right now, we're standing at 99.2% of list price, meaning on average, sellers are taking 0.8% below their list price when they're selling their home. And that's down from August of 2021 from 105%, meaning that sellers on average are rating 5% over their list price. And that's down 5.5% from the same time last year. Now you can see this is a very clear trend, nothing ambiguous about this. From March and April, we have seen a steady decline in this number reflecting activity. And I think that's also reflected in the overall sales numbers. I think activity in Gilroy has simply slowed to the point where sellers have had to take lower offers than they had to historically a year ago. Now, days on market. This one is interesting because it's another one that I think shows a very clear trend. Now, back in February of 2022, they saw some sales of properties that were on the market a lot longer. And because there's relatively small numbers in Gilroy, it skewed that number up. So if you wanted to normalize it and exclude those properties that had been on the market for an extremely long time because they were overpriced or they had other challenges relating to being on the market for a while, you would see a relatively flat performance from December of 2021 to May 2022. So it would have been more around 10 or 11 days if you normalized for that outlier property that had been on the market for so long. I believe it was in excess of 200 days or something like that. In any event, the rest of these numbers don't really need to be modified in any way, or we don't need to take into account any exceptions. These are real numbers in terms of how long it's really taking for homes to get sold. Last year at this time, it was only 13 days to get a home sold, which was basically immediate, right? Back a year ago, real estate agents were simply saying, don't make any offers till such and such a date at such and such a time. And that was usually 10 to 15 days after the listing date. And 13 days was really right there in the sweet spot. So homes were simply selling as soon as they could sell, because agents weren't saying, bring your offers, we'll consider offers anytime. Because if they did, they would have sold in a day back when the market was bursting in 2021. Today, these numbers are real. It's taking 32 days to get homes sold. As I look at the listings that come online in Gilroy, what I'm seeing is instead of saying we'll hold off on any offers until such and such a date, I'm finding that listings are more commonly now coming on the market indicating, please bring offers as they come. We will consider offers as they're presented. So more agents are getting calibrated to the fact that we have longer to wait, and they are willing to entertain offers as soon as someone's willing to bring them. So definitely signs that the market there is softening. So that's a 146.2% increase from the same time last year. It's a dramatic change for the Gilroy market. And again, another indicator that you're going to find more homes that have been on the market for over 30 days. And once you hit that third or fourth week with many sellers, that desire to stick to their list price tends to start to dissolve. So you will find more sellers are open after some period of time has passed to potential aggressive offers that could benefit you as a buyer. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at price reductions in Gilroy. The total number of homes, and this is in all of the South Valley, in terms of homes that have price reductions, Gilroy is leading the way with 41.3% of homes currently available in the month of August having had a price reduction, meaning that price was reduced in the month of August, or that percentage of the total homes available had a price reduction. So when you take into account the amount of price reductions, which indicates an acknowledgement, right? It's not a price reduction where someone changed the price in the MLS to a lower amount, indicates that sellers are calibrated to the fact that the market has softened in a way that many other markets aren't yet calibrated. We're seeing a relatively flat expectation on the part of sellers in terms of how much they want to get versus what they got a year ago. You given all these factors, I think Gilroy represents a great opportunity for buyers to potentially get some good deals. Now, I think as we get further into winter, you're going to see those opportunities expand because as we're seeing now, we are simply accumulating more and more inventory. And at some point, prices have to give way in order to bring down that inventory. Now, who knows how long it'll take or how many months of inventory will need to be on hand before those changes happen. But I would suggest anybody who's interested in buying should start your searches now. Feel free to head over to soldbyrobert.com where you can start a search in Gilroy right now. Start subscribing to it as frequently as you want, whether it's daily or weekly or monthly. We can set that up for you so that you can at least start tracking what's happening with prices and what you're getting for your money. And you'll be able to see as you go through the months of data coming in via email, how the market has changed. And it'll just give you much better information and data to draw from your personal experience of seeing the market evolve to know when it's time for you to make your jump into the market. All right, folks, as always, the goal is to leave you with more knowledge on the table than I take up on your time. Hope we've managed to achieve that today. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you all next time.